on a slightly more positive note, there's a museum in Rochester, New York, near my hometown, called The Strong, and they have a video game Hall of Fame. And I believe this is the first year that they did any inductees for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you from sitting around with Pat that even narrowing down the important games in a single year for the video game years takes forever. So I can only imagine how hard it must have been to pick what you think are the most important games to go into your first year of inductees in a Hall of Fame for video games.
It's like the first year they do it for anything. It's tough to narrow it down.
However, I honestly think they kind of knocked this out of the park. You have Pong, Pac-Man, Tetris, Super Mario Brothers, Doom, and World of Warcraft. Why do I think this is so great? Pong kind of kickstarted it. Pac-Man revolutionized it. Tetris was a phenomenon. Super Mario Brothers changed the way we looked at video games. Doom did that as well, and basically brought on the first-person shooter genre. I'm not saying any of these things were necessarily the first, although a lot of them were, but they're the most important. Yes. And then World of Warcraft, I mean, I couldn't give a shit about it, but
like it or not, it's a phenomenon.
It was a phenomenon in the first truly accepted, largely played MMO.
That's still played over 10 years later somehow.
So, and then there was that was from a field of 15 finalists, which were no worse. Angry Birds, you can knock on that all you want, but that has completely changed how people game
for
mobily.
Yeah, I would say if you look at this from a total historical perspective, eventually that would get in.
FIFA, why not Madden? Because FIFA is universally loved. Madden is only played in the United States. The Legend of Zelda, of course.
That'll get in at some point. Sure.
Minecraft, obviously. The Oregon Trail, I mean, everyone's favorite educational game that's actually fun to play. Pokemon, phenomenon, but beyond, just very, it was one of those first, when the technology was still crude, it was one of those first very social games. The Sims, Sonic the Hedgehog, and Space Invaders, the most important game of all time.
So the
I love you, Norm.
So you have this video game. If they do 6 a year, you're going to have 25 years before you start even beginning to run out of ones that you can put in there.
Yeah.
Year 15, you'll get to Civilization. You know what I mean? It'll take you that far to get in there, or think of like King's Quest. That'll make it in at some point.
You could have splashed another 5 titles up there, probably.
You know what?
With what they had,
for the
and
first
I probably
year,
would have been happy.
For the first year, you can make an argument for the first year of starting something like this. You probably should have went double to make sure you pack it in. Otherwise, people will be waiting 20 years from now. Then again, it's how widely accepted is this going to become versus because anyone can start their own Hall of Fame. But this is a brick and mortar.
Yeah, so it's a real museum.
It's a real museum in Rochester, which cold as hell in Rochester.
Not as cold as Buff.
Almost went to college there. Thank God I didn't. I have no problem with any of these picks. Again, like you said, Pong. There you go, Pong. Stolen from the brown box, but if you want to say Odyssey and Pong, put them together. Extremely important. Yeah. First time people are playing video games, put them in public to play. Putting the Odyssey on TV, and people scratch their head. What's that? They're playing TV tennis, which is Pong.
Yeah.
Extremely important. Pac-Man, culturally, most important game ever. First icon of video games. We talked about Pac-Man for his 30th anniversary a month ago. Tetris, first I'd say widely accepted amongst all gamers, young and old, male and female. First very portable video game that was huge.
And first
puzzle game that was huge.
First puzzle game that really set a mold that many followed for years. With the pit-based falling block sort of game.
Super Mario Brothers wasn't the first, but firmly established a platformer and a living, breathing world that people forget about. Before that, it was sort of like Jungle Hunt. Okay, there's somewhat of a world there. We're not talking expansive world with secrets and going underworld and underground. And then Doom, not the first, again, first-person shooter, but really had the biggest impact by far, way more than even Wolfenstein 3D did. And then, of course, World of Warcraft we spoke about before. So, no, great list. I don't have a problem with this at all. It looks like the final selections will be made on the advice of journalists, scholars, and other individuals familiar with the history of video games and their role in society. Come on, Colin, Pat, and Ian. It's like the Hall of Fame. They get sports writers and they get the Veterans Committee. We can be the Veterans Committee, can't we?